Call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a very interesting turn of events, and I thank that Speaker for putting that to the House and the brave attempt at trying to prevent this bill from passing through. Mr. Speaker, I just want to start by just commenting on a couple of points that Heather Roy mentioned as she in her contribution just before about the student associations and their going to her and I guess she was intimating anyway that their lack of ability to get back to her on a number of issues, and I think that's a bit unfair because I think the student associations have come to her on many occasions to talk through this bill with her to try and seek a compromise, as have we. And what they realised, Mr. Speaker, that when at a point when this bill was actually the possibility was there that it wouldn't get through, then Heather Roy was willing to listen and to listen to compromise. When she believed that the bill was unlikely to be prevented from passing, she closed that down. And that's in some ways in complete contradiction to what she said on backbenches the other night when she was on backbenches. She said that some of the best pieces of legislation that she got through was when parties sat around and compromised. That's exactly what she said, and I think it's somewhat sad that she didn't take that advice, that sort of those ideological words that she talked about at backbenches, and actually put them into action, and particularly with this bill here. This bill could have actually had a much better outcome that would have been durable, would have been long-lasting, would have respected the student associations, would have respected the ability of people who wanted to opt out and not be part of the student association, and instead we've got the situation as it is today. And let's be quite frank about this. At the point that we were looking for a compromise with Heather Roy, from our point of view in the Labour Party, we actually thought we could defeat this bill. We actually thought that we had sufficient time to defeat this bill, and it wouldn't come forward. And we were willing to actually compromise and put out an opt-out clause, not because we felt that there was a situation where we could actually get a much better piece of legislation out of this that would stop this whole issue being a ping pong around the place that actually was to the detriment of students. So, Mr. Chair, I want to put that pretty firmly on the table, that when Heather Roy pops up and says this is all Labor's fault, that we're looking for to extend the transition arrangements out to 2013 so that student associations actually have an opportunity to be able to get themselves ready. There was an option there. There was an option there on the table. This is to actually have a different piece of legislation than the one that we are debating today. The second thing, of course, is that, it's the Labour Party's fault, and therefore it's the Labour Party's fault that the students are going to face student associations are going to face an inordinate problem to get ready by the 1st of January. So therefore, we're not looking at at trying to do something to ameliorate the position of the student associations. We're just simply blaming the Labour Party. Well, you can blame us if you like, but I would submit that, in fact, you're as uncaring about what's going to happen with the student associations as you're putting the blame on us equally. I think there's a very strong case under Clause 9 of this bill, Mr. Chair, where we could actually put together a transition clause that could in fact enable student associations to get ready much more adequately. And I want to refer to a point that I got to in my last call around this, because under Education Amendment Bill number 4, there is going to be some real restrictions on universities picking up or increasing their levies to meet these services that student associations are no longer going to be able to provide. This is a very serious issue, because we all know what will happen when this bill comes through. Mr. Chair?
David Shearer.
We all know what will happen when Clause 9 is enacted. That what will happen will be that the student associations will run short of money, as it happened in Waikato, as it happened at Auckland University, as happened at every single Australian university where the same sort of legislation was put in place. And when that happened, Mr. Chair, what happened was that the universities had to step up and actually pay these student associations or contract out the very services that the student associations were once providing. It's ironic, and I hear Sir Roger Douglas call out freedom or democracy or whatever he calls out from time to time. It's hard to say, but it's a grunt over there in the corner that sounds a little bit like freedom. But effectively, what this is about is that students will be levied money for the services they receive now from the university without any representation. So taxation without representation is supposedly something that the ACT Party upholds higher than just about any other value that they espouse. Perhaps no taxation would be one, but they're not willing to examine that in the light of this piece of legislation. So coming back to Education Amendment Bill number 4, it does put in place a number of stipulations, for the universities to consult with the student body. It puts in place some regulations around the degree to which the levy can be raised. And we know that in the case of Auckland University, let's take that example, that the Student Association, the levies went from around more than $100 to more than $500 to meet the costs of services that the Student Association there once provided. And now the Student Association, quite frankly, Mr. Chair, is a contractor to the university. It does not have the same ability to represent students as it did before. Now, I just want to refer to, because in my reading around this area, I came across this quote from the UK Conservative Party, which is actually at the moment, as some of you may know, is actually stripping many of the universities certainly raising the costs in universities considerably and stripping away basically a free university education there to huge protests. But the Conservative Minister for University, David Willits, praised the contribution of student associations in a recent speech, saying that student associations are playing their part in their local communities, to local schools, hospitals, charities, friendly societies, I would add student unions. He doesn't call them a union in the sense of a workers' union, he calls them a union in the sense of an association like those other societies that he referred to. We value student unions, he says. We salute them and what they achieve for and on behalf of students. Without them, universities would be much poorer institutions, as would the employers, causes and political parties who take their alumni. That was a Conservative minister in the process, in the throes of actually making universities in the UK, Mr. Chair, much more expensive to go to. Yet he is valuing student associations and ensuring those students' associations stay there. Mr. Locke talked about the fact, as did Ms. Roy in her contribution, talked about the fact that student associations were in fact voluntary early on in the New Zealand university experience. That changed when, as according to my colleague here, Grant Robertson, who actually did a thesis on this issue, which is which I didn't know, but does make him something of an expert on the matter. And seeing just in case he doesn't get another call, I just want he reflects from that thesis, and I think he should make it into a book. But anyway, that the student associations became compulsory when the New Zealand university was split up into the various universities that we largely see today. And at that point there was a clause put in the legislation that created our universities from the New Zealand universities saying that student associations should be compulsory.
Colin King.
Mr. Chair, I move that